Hello all, Rick here with another video looking at a planet of Star Trek, and this time we're looking at the Klingon Monastery world of Boreth. This is a weird one, as I have covered bits of it here and there in various different videos but never really consolidated it all into one, so here it is. Back in the 9th century, by Earth's calendar, the Klingon homeworld was in the midst of the events that would go on to shape its ideology and future in a time that would later become known as the time of Kahless the Unforgettable. Kahless's life is shrouded in myth and legend, and while there is definitive proof that he existed, his accomplishments and actual history are warped by centuries of retellings and typical Klingon hyperbole when it comes to telling tales. His life and stories are now less a matter of Klingon history and more parables tied to their beliefs and faith. Klingon history is replete with stories of Fekiri demons, Feklar and Herc, all of which Kahless is said to have battled. Considering the Herc turned out to be real aliens that attacked qo'nos in antiquity, perhaps the stories of Kahless are not as far-fetched as they seem. Did he really cry enough tears to fill an ocean on the death of his father? Probably not. But did he stand with Lady Lucara at Quan Chi and defeat Molar's forces of 500 warriors? Maybe. Kahless earned great respect in life, spreading the Klingon interpretation of honour and valour. He himself was from humble beginnings, not of noble birth, and belonged to no great house, so his achievements were his own, and perhaps because of his independence and strength of conviction, he stood against the current era's norms, and forged his own warrior's ethos, his own martial arts, and eventually his own sword to suit it, the bat'leth. So it was that when he was approaching death, he took his followers to a point where he could see the firmament and pointed to a single star, saying, "Look for me there, on that point of light," prophesizing his return one day before he departed for the afterlife of Sto-vo-kor. Not long after, his followers managed to develop interstellar flight. Many speculate it was stolen from the Herc invaders and reverse engineered. They travelled to the star that Kahless had indicated and found it was a planetary system. One of the planets was even M-class, well, barely M-class, and this would become the site of the Klingon Monastery, a world of ice and fire, Boreth. His followers became the first monks of the temple here, and for over 1,500 years they awaited his return. In 2369 this prophecy came true, in a way, as the clone of Kahless was created by the monks from DNA left on the knife of Chiron. But whether or not this fits the criteria is a matter of personal opinion. So the planet has great historical significance for the Klingons, which is most of the reason it was settled by them, because Kahless knows it wasn't for the weather. Its surface temperature is low enough for near constant snowstorms and icy winds. The coldness may be due to the position of the planet in the system, or perhaps the nature of this cloud cover, which is likely from volcanic activity. Juxtaposing the icy climate are the streams of lava running across its surface as burning veins. It's not known if these are caused by shifting plate tectonics or some tidal force applied by Boreth's singular moon. But it's the combination of these extremes that makes the planet somewhat habitable to humanoid life, even if it is a bit harsh. Then again, Klingons don't really shy away from harsh. On its surface is the Temple of Boreth, formed both of natural caverns and ancient Klingon architecture, built from stone and hewn into the mountain peaks. These tunnels run deep and not only provide shelter from the storms but house active magma pools deeper within their network. The constructed parts of the temple are made from heavy stonework formed into very Gothic-style pillars replete with arches and vaulted ceilings internally. The windows too were typically Gothic in style, and heavy doors sequestered long passages behind them. Much of this Gothic style was seen in Star Trek Discovery. while the external shots we have of it from prior episodes of Star Trek show the spires and peaks atop the mountain to resemble the concentric circles of spiked towers of other Klingon architecture. These could be different sites, but I simply think that the Gothic architecture is supposed to be older, while the spires atop the mountain were added centuries later. After all, the temple, in its entirety, is over 15 centuries old, and so expansion and renovation would explain a divergence of styles at some point. The deeper you went, the less natural light made its way inside, so fires from braziers, torches and candles lit the way. Eventually you can come across rooms and shrines dedicated to Kahless for private or group meditation, and many of these house relics and artifacts relevant to the time of Kahless. As the worked stone gives way to natural caverns, you can even find these lit with flame and by natural magma streams churning by. The heat within these places would be stifling, to say nothing of the fumes possibly being given off. That may go some way as to explain the frequency with which Klingons find enlightenment and hallucination within these deeper halls, as their constitution is taxed by periods of long concentration, heat, and self-imposed starvation. Although Klingons tend to believe that pushing their body to its extremes forces them closer to Sto-vo-kor and puts them in contact with their ancestors' spirits. However, there resides a discreet chamber within the halls of the monastery where time crystals naturally form. These green-hued mineral formations have an odd relation with temporal mechanics, and the local area around them is also subjected to an unnatural flow of time. You could spend hours within the proximity of one and find that years passed by outside, while the inverse may also be true. The corridors leading to the crystals even have irregularities shaped by the flow of time, such as plants sprouting from spilled seeds. Time crystals themselves provide prophetic visions of the future, and it has been the observation of those who tend to them that when a crystal is taken from Boreth, usually any glimpses into the future it provided are rendered immutable. On a side note, I have a theory that the orbs of Bajor may be constructed of the same substance as these crystals, perhaps generated from within the wormhole itself. There's a lot of similarities. The existence of these crystals is a guarded secret by the monks of Boreth, and only the highest among the Klingon Empire even know of their existence. This decree was to remove the temptation to use them, and maintained only by the reverence for Kahless and the respect that the monks of Boreth are granted by the Empire. Not even the Chancellor is allowed to interfere with matters of Boreth. The fact that these crystals even reside on this planet also gives some credence to the notion that maybe one day the real Kahless may return. I mean, anything is possible with time travellers involved, so who knows? The monks, or clerics as they are also known, dress simply in robes and are the most ardent followers of Kahless and his teachings. Their roles were to maintain the temple, guard the time crystals, and most commonly provide spiritual guidance and advice to those Klingons who sought them out. They would guide meditations, perform religious services, and recite the parables of Kahless, all in the aid of helping Klingons in the matters of the spirit, mind, and heart. They have access to a myriad of relics from ancient history, making Boreth a trove of knowledge too. But these clerics are also the only ones allowed to have access to much of it, sharing only at their discretion. For all their spiritual beliefs, the Clerics of Boreth are still Klingon, and the teachings of Kahless do not shy away from combat, so it is shown in Apocrypha, as well as generally a safe bet, that they are able to defend themselves, probably using the martial arts of Mok'Bara and the Bat'leth, both legacies of Kahless. So I expect there is a dojo in there somewhere, as well as accommodations for long-time guests at the monastery, storage rooms, and all the usual amenities you would need to survive. The world of Boreth features several times in Star Trek lore, and it is seen as the spiritual heart of Klingon space, so it seemed only fair to give the planet its due. Thanks for watching this video on the world, and if it wasn't for Kahless, I doubt anyone would have given it a second look. I've been Rick, and thanks again, and goodbye.